My name is Sophie Perez. I'm 28, and I thought Friday night would be ordinary, just a quiet dinner with my boyfriend, George Walker. We'd been dating for 6 months, and everything felt easy, familiar. We shared a love for hiking, indie films, and a strange obsession with true crime podcasts, the kind of things that make you feel like someone knows you before you even say a word. The restaurant smelled of garlic and oak, dim lights softening the edges of the evening. George looked sharp, wearing the navy blazer I loved, smiling in a way that made me feel I'd already won tonight before the appetizer even arrived. We were talking about the last trail we hiked when his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, a smile spreading across his face as his thumb danced over the screen. I assumed it was work, maybe a group message, but the smile lingered, almost too wide, and I noticed it again when the phone vibrated a second time. "Hey," I said gently, "are you okay?" "Yeah, just a message," he said, dismissing it with a wave. But the messages kept coming. Buzz, smile, type. Buzz, giggle, type. I watched him reply with enthusiasm, laugh softly at things I couldn't see. My hand hovered over my water glass, my stomach twisting in a knot I couldn't name. Finally, I said it aloud. "George, can we focus on our dinner? I really wanted tonight to be just us." He froze, phone mid-scroll. His eyes narrowed slightly, then rolled. "Needy," he said, shaking his head as if I'd asked him to solve world hunger. "You're being so needy, Sophie." The word struck me like a cold wind. Needy, for asking him to look up from a screen during a meal we planned together. My mind raced. Am I being needy? Am I overreacting? I wanted to say more, to defend myself, but the lump in my throat made me swallow everything down. "Needy?" I repeated, my voice quieter than intended. "I just wanted to enjoy our dinner." He waved me off. "Seriously, Sophie, I'm just helping a friend. Why are you making this a big deal?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw my napkin across the table and demand he see me, really see me. But instead, I felt a strange, hollow rage rising. My fork felt heavy in my hand. The appetizers arrived. Golden calamari, delicate arancini. But I barely noticed. He was typing one-handed, replying to this mystery friend with laughter in his eyes, while I tried to tell him about the weekend I'd spent hiking in the hills, the way the sun had lit the valley like fire. He gave me a huh and a wow, barely glancing up, still absorbed in his screen. 20 minutes in, I had had enough. "George, seriously, everything okay? Seems like someone really needs your attention." He shrugged, almost amused. "It's just Vanessa. She's having a little crisis. Totally harmless." I froze. Vanessa? That name. It didn't sit right. "She's... who?" I asked carefully, trying to mask the rising suspicion in my chest. "My friend Vanessa. She's stressed. I'm just helping her out." I wanted to press further, but I restrained myself. I didn't know why, but something about the name felt wrong. Maybe it was the way he said it. Too casual, too familiar. "Would you maybe put the phone away for a bit?" I asked. I want to enjoy tonight, George." His laugh was soft, patronizing. "Sophie, you're really going to call me needy for helping a friend? Come on." The word repeated in my mind. Needy, needy, needy. I felt my cheeks burn, not with shame, but with outrage. I wasn't asking for much. I wasn't asking him to stop being kind. I was asking for attention on our date, something as simple as being present for me for an hour. And here I was, being labeled, dismissed, belittled. I watched him type one last time, send the message, and finally place the phone on the table, face down, but the smile lingered as if nothing had happened. The waiter arrived, expecting our entree order. I couldn't bring myself to look at the menu. Instead, I caught the waiter's eye. "Actually, just the check, please," I said. George blinked. "Wait, what?" "I'm leaving," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "because I'm not needy for asking for your attention. I'm leaving because you think I am." I pulled out my card, paid for the appetizers and drinks, and walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't want to. His calls and protests echoed behind me, but I kept walking until the cool night air filled my lungs. In my car, I blocked him on every platform I could think of. Phone, Instagram, dating apps. Clean sweep. If he wanted to text Vanessa so badly, he could do it without me watching. As I drove home, my mind replayed the night, the sting of being called needy. the casual ease with which he dismissed my feelings. I told myself it was over, just another lesson in modern dating, another moment where someone else's priorities didn't align with mine, and I had to protect myself. And yet, a small voice in my mind whispered that this was only the beginning. Something about Vanessa didn't feel right. That name had stuck with me, echoing in the corners of my thoughts, a subtle warning I couldn't shake. I spent the rest of the weekend trying to distract myself, telling my friends I was fine, scrolling through work emails, even binge-watching a documentary I barely cared about. But every time my phone buzzed with a notification, or even just a random vibration, I flinched. My mind kept circling back to that name, Vanessa, and the way George had smiled while texting her. Something was off. Curiosity gnawed at me, sharp and persistent. I hesitated, but Sunday evening, I found myself scrolling through social media, trying to piece together what I should already have ignored. That's when I saw it, Vanessa. In photos, laughing with a man who clearly wasn't George, her arm linked with someone else's, cozy and familiar. My stomach dropped. She had a boyfriend. And yet, I remembered George's messages, the way he seemed invested, the way Vanessa had made him laugh at our date while I tried to speak. My chest tightened. Anger, disbelief, and hurt collided in a messy storm. Why would she flirt with him if she already had someone, I wondered, feeling a pang of jealousy and moral outrage at the same time. And why would George engage? I dug a little deeper, careful not to leave digital fingerprints, and confirmed it. Vanessa and this man had been together for months. Pictures, anniversaries, tagged posts. She smiled at him. They held hands, kissed on trips, but yet somehow she was texting George, whispering jokes, asking questions that seemed way too personal, way too intimate for casual friendship. I sat back in my chair, staring at my phone, stomach churning. Betrayal wasn't just a word anymore. It was a living, breathing feeling in my chest. My thoughts spun. Did George know she had a boyfriend? Was he just using her attention? Or was he lying to me? I wanted to confront him immediately, but I hesitated. Part of me was terrified of what I'd discover. The other part couldn't stop. The more I learned about Vanessa, the more my anger mingled with dread. I realized I hadn't been overreacting on the date. My instincts had been right all along. Monday evening, while trying to calm my racing mind, I ran into Daniel, George's close friend, at a cafe near my apartment. He noticed my tense expression and asked what was wrong. I didn't plan to spill, but words slipped out. "It's George, and this Vanessa," I said carefully, still unsure how much to reveal. Daniel hesitated, glancing around. "Sophie, okay, I should tell you something, but it's complicated." "Complicated how?" I pressed, my pulse quickening. He sighed, lowering his voice. "Vanessa, she has a boyfriend. She's been texting George a lot, and he didn't tell you, but he's been leading her on, saying he's single sometimes. I didn't want to get involved, but..." His eyes flicked away, guilty. "I think you should know." I felt my chest tighten. Part of me wanted to scream at him. The other part just wanted to disappear into the cafe floor. The betrayal was real, sharp, and inescapable. My mind raced through every message George had sent, every smile at the table that night, every dismissal of my feelings. "You mean he's been lying?" I asked quietly. Daniel nodded, wincing. "Not everything, maybe, but enough that it's misleading. And Vanessa? She's been encouraging it. I didn't know if you'd want me to say anything, but I think you deserve to know the truth." Truth. That word felt heavy, suffocating. I felt dizzy, angry, and exhausted all at once. My own mind turned on me. Was I too sensitive? Am I imagining this? No, I'm not. I saw him laugh at her texts while I tried to tell a story. I'm not crazy. I left the cafe shaking, phone clutched in my hand. Part of me wanted to call George, demand answers, make him explain every smile, every word, every dismissive, needy comment. Another part of me wanted to vanish entirely, disappear from the tangled web of lies and half-truths. Over the next few days, I observed from a distance Vanessa's posts, George's behavior, the subtle signals Daniel had hinted at. Every detail added fuel to the fire. I couldn't shake the feeling that George had been gaslighting me, making me question my own instincts. The word needy haunted me, twisted now into something cruelly ironic. I realized with a bitter clarity that the woman he was texting, Vanessa, was intentionally creating chaos. She wanted attention from someone unavailable, and George had been complicit, or at least too weak to stop it. By midweek, the emotional pressure became unbearable. I knew I had to confront the situation, but not yet. First, I needed to gather my thoughts, figure out what I could handle emotionally, and, most importantly, protect myself from being dismissed again as needy. As I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, one thought kept repeating. I was right to walk out. I wasn't crazy, I wasn't needy, I was paying attention, and he failed to see me. And somewhere in the shadows of my anger and hurt, a quiet determination began to grow. I wasn't going to let this go unnoticed. I wasn't going to be the one gaslit or blamed. Little did I know, the next conversation with Daniel would open a door I wasn't ready for, a door that would force me to confront not only George's lies, but the full extent of Vanessa's manipulation. It was Wednesday evening when I finally agreed to meet Daniel again. I wasn't ready to confront George, not yet, but I needed someone to make sense of the chaos swirling in my head. My fingers drummed nervously against the cafe table, my coffee cooling as my pulse raced. Daniel arrived, looking guilty and slightly uncomfortable. He slid into the seat across from me, eyes darting around as if the world outside could overhear. "Sophie," he began, hesitating, "there's something else. Something I probably shouldn't say, but you deserve to know." I leaned forward, a mix of fear and anticipation coiling in my stomach. "Daniel, whatever it is, just tell me." He swallowed. "George, he hasn't been entirely honest about Vanessa." My heart sank. "I know she has a boyfriend. I saw it." Yes, but there's more. George has been telling her he's single, that he's available emotionally." Daniel's words stumbled out, awkward and hesitant. "Even while he's with you." The cafe spun slightly. I gripped the edge of the table. "He told her he's single?" I whispered, disbelief choking me. "While dating me?" Daniel nodded, looking pained. I didn't want to believe it either, but it's true. He's been letting her rely on him for emotional support, at all hours. Deep conversations, personal stuff. She's using him, and he's letting it happen. A cold wave of betrayal washed over me. Every dismissal, every accusation of needy, every laugh at her text during our date, it all clicked into place. He hadn't just ignored my feelings. He had actively fostered another woman's attention while pretending I was the problem. I can't believe this," I muttered, voice tight. "I walked out because I asked for attention, and he was lying to me the whole time." Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. "I know. I didn't want to get involved. I didn't want to make it worse, but now you know." I felt a strange mixture of vindication and devastation. My instincts had been right all along. I wasn't needy. I hadn't overreacted. I had simply expected basic respect, attention, and honesty. 3 things George had failed to give me. "And Vanessa?" I asked, my voice shaking. "She knew he was with me?" Daniel's gaze flicked away. "I think she didn't care. She wanted the attention anyway. She's been flirty, intimate, maybe even manipulative. I don't know the full extent, but it's more than casual." Anger surged, burning hot in my chest. I could almost see her smile, the texts, the laughter at my boyfriend's phone while I sat across the table trying to connect. It was infuriating, the audacity, the betrayal. "I can't believe I doubted myself," I whispered. "All weekend I questioned if I was imagining it, if I was overreacting, and he painted me as the problem." Daniel looked uncomfortable, his hands twisting the coffee cup. "I tried to explain once, but he's stubborn, and he's very good at making it sound like you're overreacting." My fists clenched. "Yes, he is." I sat back, staring at the fading steam rising from my coffee. A part of me wanted to confront George immediately, demand every truth, every lie. Another part wanted to vanish, walk away, and never look back. But deep inside, a quiet fury began to settle in. "You deserve to know everything," Daniel said softly. I didn't want to be the one to break it all to you, but now I think you see it for yourself." I did see it. Every dismissal, every needy accusation, every casual laugh. It wasn't me. It was him. And it was Vanessa. Daniel hesitated, then added, almost apologetically, "There's more, though. Vanessa's boyfriend found out through social media. He's confronting her soon. I don't know when or how, but it's coming." My mind whirled. I felt a strange satisfaction, tinged with sadness. Karma was quietly weaving its way forward. even if it didn't undo my pain. I need space, I said finally, my voice firm. I can't be part of this anymore. Not with him, not with her. I have to protect myself. Daniel nodded. I understand. Just be careful. She's good at manipulating. And George, well, he'll try to make it sound like you're wrong if you give him the chance. I left the cafe that night with a mix of exhaustion and clarity. The tension that had coiled in my chest since Friday finally loosened enough for me to breathe, though the sting of betrayal lingered. I knew what I had to do next: face George, set boundaries, and make it clear that I would not be gaslit again. But first, I needed to process, to let the revelations sink in fully. Vanessa's duplicity, George's dishonesty, and Daniel's reluctant honesty had laid everything bare. The slow reveal had worked. It had shown me the truth, sharp and unflinching. I realized something that night. Walking out on Friday hadn't been weakness or overreaction. It had been self-preservation. And now, more than ever, I understood why paying attention to my instincts mattered. Because when others try to distort reality, it's the truth you see for yourself that protects you. And I knew with a sinking certainty that once I confronted George, nothing would ever be the same again. Thursday afternoon, I found myself standing outside the small bistro where George liked to grab lunch. My chest tightened as I spotted him at a corner table, scrolling on his phone. The casual ease with which he moved, the faint smile playing at his lips, it made my stomach twist with both anger and disbelief. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to step inside. The scent of warm bread and espresso hit me, but it barely registered. George looked up as I approached, surprise flickering across his features. Sophie, hey, I cut him off before he could form an excuse. Stop. Just stop. I need to say something, and I need you to listen. No interruptions, no excuses. His eyebrows knit together. Okay, sure, what's this about? I sat down, my fingers clutching my purse like an anchor. About Friday night. About Vanessa. About being called needy for wanting your attention during our date. His eyes narrowed. Needy. Sophie, that... Stop! I slammed my hand gently on the table. You called me needy. You laughed while texting her. And now I know she has a boyfriend. And you lied. You let her think you were single while you were with me. George flinched, but the words had the exact effect I wanted. They forced him into a corner. Sophie, it's not like that. She needed help. Needed help? I echoed, voice rising. And I was the problem for asking you to be present? Do you even hear yourself? My throat burned. I trusted you. I tried to communicate, and you gaslit me. You made me doubt myself. And for what? To protect what? Your ego? Her attention? George opened his mouth, but I held up my hand. No more lies. No more excuses. I am not the needy one. I am not the one betraying trust. I am not the problem here. The cafe felt smaller somehow, the other patrons fading into the background as the weight of my words hung between us. George's shoulders slumped, a mixture of guilt and defensiveness flickering across his face. You're overreacting, he said finally, voice low. It wasn't that serious? I laughed, short, bitter, and hollow. Overreacting? Walking out was the only way I preserved my self-respect. Do you even hear what you just said? I walked out of a dinner, paid for my own meal, blocked you, and you have the audacity to say I overreacted? He looked at me, eyes darting, as if searching for the right answer, but there wasn't one. And I didn't give him the chance to find it. I don't care anymore, George, I said, standing. I don't need to hear your justifications. I don't need validation from someone who treats honesty like a joke. I am done. His lips parted as if to speak, but I turned and walked away, the sound of my heels clicking against the tile a rhythmic punctuation to my resolve. Outside, the cool air hit my face, clearing the fog of rage and heartbreak. I could feel it. This was the turning point. I wasn't broken. I wasn't needy. I was clear-eyed, finally, about who George really was. Over the next few days, the fallout spread. Mutual friends began hearing snippets of the story. Social media, that unrelenting mirror of modern life, became a stage where the truth slowly surfaced. Vanessa's posts, once casual, began to seem manipulative in hindsight. People started noticing the pattern. Flirty messages, late-night emotional support, the kind of intimacy that didn't belong in a simple friendship. I watched as the story spun outward. Not from me, not from George, but from the unraveling threads of their own deception. The emotional tension was intoxicating in its justice. It wasn't revenge. I wasn't scheming. But the universe had a way of balancing itself, and I was finally free to step away. I found myself thinking about all the subtle signs I'd ignored, how his attention drifted, how Vanessa's texts seemed to take priority, the dismissive eye rolls at my requests. Every detail now fit into a pattern I could clearly see. By Friday, I no longer flinched at notifications. I no longer doubted my instincts. I realized something crucial. Respect, honesty, and attention aren't optional in a relationship. They're essential. Anything less is betrayal. And for the first time since Friday night, I felt a small, victorious sense of peace. Not from George's downfall, not from Vanessa's manipulation being exposed, but from knowing I had preserved myself, stood firm, and refused to be gaslit into believing I was the problem. I didn't look back except once, to see George sitting alone in the cafe, phone idle, a shadow of confusion on his face. I didn't pity him. I didn't regret my decision. I only felt clarity. And I knew deep down that sometimes the hardest, most painful actions, walking out, setting boundaries, refusing to bend to manipulation, are also the most liberating. By Monday morning, the storm that had been quietly building around George and Vanessa began to show its first cracks. Social media is a small world, and the threads of their deception didn't stay hidden for long. Vanessa's boyfriend, Marcus, started piecing things together, screenshots, vague messages, late-night interactions, and confronted her. The irony was sharp and almost poetic. Vanessa, who had spent weeks flirting with someone already taken, trying to manipulate George's attention, now faced the consequences of her own actions. Marcus wasn't cruel. He was just clear-eyed. The relationship ended quickly, publicly, and definitively. I watched from a distance, not out of schadenfreude, but because it confirmed what I had always known. I had done the right thing. I had walked away, preserved my dignity, and refused to be gaslit. Meanwhile, George's world began to crumble in subtler ways. Mutual friends, hearing pieces of the story from Daniel and others, started to see him differently. The laughter at Vanessa's texts, the dismissive eye rolls at my needy requests, it all painted a picture of a man unwilling or unable to honor honesty and boundaries in a relationship. One evening, I scrolled through social media casually and saw a post from Vanessa, awkwardly attempting to justify herself. I had no idea he was with Sophie. I was just helping a friend. The words rang hollow against the evidence. Screenshots, posts, and confessions now circulating. Comments from friends and strangers alike exposed the truth. She had knowingly sought attention from a taken man. And then there was George. His attempts at explanation, at spinning the story, fell flat. People weren't buying it anymore. I smiled faintly, a small private satisfaction, not from revenge, but from clarity and justice unfolding naturally. I thought about that Friday night, the weight of being called needy, the sting of betrayal. Walking out had felt terrifying, almost reckless, but it was the most decisive act of self-respect I'd ever taken. Every moment of doubt, every pang of hurt, every sleepless night thinking about Vanessa and George, it all solidified something crucial. I was right. I reflected on my own journey through the past week. I had learned to trust my instincts, to honor my feelings, and to recognize manipulation when it appears disguised as casual friendship. I realized the difference between someone who respects you and someone who uses you to fill a void or entertain their ego. By Thursday, I was no longer consumed by the events themselves. I moved forward with subtle satisfaction, empowered by the knowledge that I had acted decisively, preserved my boundaries, and refused to be the scapegoat for someone else's deception. And sometimes, life delivers poetic justice in the quietest ways. I ran into a man at a coffee shop sitting at a corner table, absorbed in his phone. He looked up as I walked in, caught my eye, and smiled politely. I smiled back. When he returned to scrolling, I noticed his expression change, the small frustration, the subtle tension. He reminded me of George, but this time I didn't intervene. I didn't fix anything. I simply observed, content in knowing I had already chosen the better path. From that day forward, I carried a sense of clarity that I had never felt before. I didn't need apologies, explanations, or validation from anyone. I understood the difference between respect and manipulation, between attention and intrusion. And most importantly, I knew this. Boundaries are not selfish. Asking for honesty, asking for presence, asking to be treated as a priority, it is never needy. It is self-respect. George faded from my life, blocked, unimportant. Vanessa's attempts to justify herself fell flat and unnoticed. And I, Sophie Perez, 28, walked forward unburdened, confident, and clear-eyed, knowing I had preserved the most important relationship of all, the one with myself. Sometimes the hardest choice is the right choice, and sometimes justice unfolds quietly, without fanfare, leaving only clarity, peace, and a sense of earned empowerment in its wake.